So, hey, if you're a Northwestern advisor and you're on today's call and you're watching, what are the different types of investment properties we can invest in is a question that your clients are going to ask you. Or how do we start investing in real estate? We've got all this money saved with you and our friend did it. So what can we do to invest in real estate? Or worse, they kind of come to you with a plan already enacted, and you're not really sure how to, tell them what to do or maybe give them advice. So after watching today, hopefully we'll go through what are the different types of investment properties I should look for. Got Andy and Aaron here, and we've got a nice little visual. So we kind of did this. If you guys can read that, type 1. I mean, Andy, talk about that. You're 27. So read the type 1.
Yeah, so the basic and most ease of execution on an investment property is always going to be the first home that you buy. As you can see on that first line in type 1, people buy their first home and outgrow it and end up keeping it and then moving on to the next house. So when you move on to the next house, there's nothing that you have to essentially do to your mortgage, or you're not changing the loan, you're not changing anything on the expense side. All you're simply doing is now moving your primary residence and turning that into an investment property. So obviously the barrier to entry, if you already own a home, is super low because you can always turn that one into a rental. And if you did it with good timing and you have equity in that property too, you can even leverage the equity in your first home to then even help with the down payment of your next home.
Beautiful. Well said. And leverage means like home equity line. We're going to talk about that on a totally separate call, like exactly how to do it. Type 2, Aaron.
This is more of a conventional approach. Basically, you find a home that's outside of the one that you're living in, and you want to buy it as truly as an investment property. So the biggest difference here is the out-of-pocket upfront cash, which is usually about 20 to 30% of the purchase price. And this is more of a long-term, probably renting it to a long-term renter, creating some cash flow and building equity over a longer period of time.
Got it. And, it's a funny, true story. This morning, I get a call from a 15-year client, helped him 7 times. And he goes, hey, man, I just bought this property in cash. It was a 275 place in Smyrna. There was an outbuilding that was like a garage where the family rented it's like a little business. And he's like, hey, I might want to mortgage it. I might not. I paid cash for it. And I think I can rent the garage for $1,500, and I think I can clean up the house and rent it for $1,500. I'm going to get $3,000 a month. He paid $275 for the place, so he'll bring in $36,000 a year on a $275 place. People do the math sometimes. $275 divided by $36,000 in annual rents is 7.6%. So people call that a cap rate. So a 7.6 cap rate, when it's a low cap rate, that's a good thing. So there are investors that'll buy 10 cap and 12 cap right now and still purchase properties with, low cash flow. So third type, I'm going to get my camera fixed. You guys are watching my face frozen. Third type is Aaron. Back on you.
You buy a home outside of your primary residence but instead of longer term rentals, you're using a short term rental, VRBO, Airbnb, that kind of thing.
Tell us your story in a minute or less on your first VRBO.
We were, I think, like the 30th listing on VRBO in Nashville back in 2010. We were actually, this one we were living in, we kind of converted, we skipped type 2, kind of went right to type 3, and just kind of experimented and did this crazy thing called VRBO Airbnb, and tested it out while we were living there. And then after about a month, we realized we had to vacate because it was in high demand. So to me, I've done long-term, short-term flips. This is the one that I like the best right here. Not only here in Nashville, but other similar places, Gatlinburg, vacation, and resort type places as well.
Yeah. And I think if you're an advisor in Nashville, we are in a very sexy city for short-term rental, and we're in a very sexy state. sexy is a good word because this business is the hospitality business. You know, it's a different level of involvement for your client who says, I want to start doing Airbnbs. Now, if they said, hey, our kids are grown up a little bit, they're now going off to school. So Sally, my wife, doesn't have anything to do, and we feel like we could do this. We just stayed in a couple Airbnbs, you know, the Nashville market, this, that, and the other. We want to buy one in New Orleans or somewhere. I mean, you're going to hear these types of questions as an advisor. And I think that short-term rentals are very profitable. My general rule of thumb on a short-term rental is that if you can rent it for 12 nights a month, you take that rate. So that's 4 bookings. That's 4 3-night bookings. Some short-term rental genius taught me that years ago before I got into business. So 4 3-night bookings. So simple. Let's say someone says I can rent it for $400 a night. That'd be $4,800 a month. If the regular rent was $3,000, then they're going to make $1,800 more, but they're going to do work to do it. But here's the upside to a short term. If your clients ask you about it, I think the maintenance, the house is being cleaned 4 times a month. It's being looked at more. It's being lived in less. So there's some pros and cons to the type 3. Type 4. Okay. A multifamily. So I think this is where when we go back to the S word, the sexy word, I hear a lot about multifamily. Personally, I've owned 1 duplex in my life. And then I own a property right now that has 4 units. I separately acquired them, but they're all in one building. Again, long-term rent, a multifamily home, the way your clients are going to ask you, sometimes they're going to say, hey, I found a duplex, a triplex, or a quadplex. So it's all owned on one tax parcel, and it could be mortgaged under one mortgage. Starts to get complex. I would say for your clients that might have children, here would be a great idea on a duplex or a triplex or a quadplex. They want to buy their kid a home in college. And they said, hey, they're moving to West Virginia, and I found a duplex at University of West Virginia. You know, what do I do? They're going to ask you that question as the advisor. This would be a multifamily type situation. And some people just love multifamily. I'm okay with it personally, but you know, real estate's real estate. So everybody can kind of pick their way to do this and to navigate. Type 5.
Brendan,
Yeah,
one quick thing that I think everybody needs to know about multifamily is that when you think about property type, you compare the step 1 or type 3 above that, and then type 4. Short-term rentals are going to be super, super unique. You know, could be unique, could just be really bougie properties, going to be probably pretty nice, all dressed up. Your multifamilies are going to be the exact opposite. They're going to be super, super basic.
Yeah.
A lot of them have 0 curb appeal. They are not sexy real estate, homes.
They're tanks. They're little tanks.
Their literal purpose is only to give renters a home to live. That's it.
Yeah.
And so people, if anybody thinks that they're getting into the multifamily game and they're going to find some, luxury property, they're mistaken, because those are just, meat and potatoes. They have the basic amenities, and that's it.
Yeah. No, that's well said. Type 5, fixer upper rehab. Aaron, have you done a rehab?
At least 4, I think.
At least 4. Andy, you done one?
I haven't.
You haven't? I've done a lot. Aaron, speak to a rehab. Just it's detailed bullet points.
Yeah, I mean, I think you definitely have to have your numbers down. How much cost of acquisition, cost of rehab, what's your value going to be at the end, kind of thing. What do you want to do with it? Do you want to keep it as a long-term rental? Do you want to sell it? That kind of thing.
Well, and remember the advisor is getting this question from their client. Hey, we're thinking about getting into rehabs.
Yeah, definitely a more advanced, not for a first timer. I wouldn't recommend. So
yeah, and I think this as an advisor, if you hear this, you better be very clear that the client or the client's spouse has a tremendous amount of time to dedicate to something like this. If you hear this and you're like, your client has a full-time job and they want to try to do this on the weekends with their brother who just moved to town and he used to be in construction, it could work. I'm not saying don't. Know this: the fixer-upper rehab. We highlighted this little thing. TV shows have made this seem easy, almost to the point of being glorified. When someone wants to do a rehab, my camera went out again. When someone wants to do a rehab, I've noticed that it's kind of in their blood. Like they've got this idea that they want to fix something and make it pretty. And then, like Aaron said, it could be that, hey, they want to keep it as a rental. Maybe they want to move into it. Or maybe they just want to flip it and make some money. So you have to remember, this is definitely the financing piece on this can get complicated. The involvement is pretty heavy, and it's probably the most complex way to get in and make money.
Also, one last piece I'm going to add: when you do these 3, 6 month, maybe 9-month rehabs, you're paying income tax versus long-term rentals where you get a lot of passive real estate income and you can depreciate that. You're paying way more taxes on flips than you would be on long-term investments.
It's ordinary income. All right. Type 6, second homes at the beach or in the mountains, and tiny homes. This really is just, I think, when your client is maybe a wealthier client and simply says, hey, we're buying a home in Florida, or we just got back from the mountains in Colorado and we want to buy a house up there. Or a tiny home. Those are pretty cool. They're up in Monteagle. We added that. The bottom line is the tiny home is a phenomenon that I've only been used to over the last year and a half. Second homes, beach homes, mountain homes. Aaron, Andy, do either one of you have a recent story on just something simple that an advisor could glean from?
Yeah, I have a scenario. I had a past client who ended up selling her house for a ton of money earlier this year, and she's sitting on about $200,000. And she was asking me, like, what would be the best way if she loves homes. She's done some flips in the past. She's kind of more of a decorator type personality when it comes to housing, and she was just asking me what her options would be if she wanted to invest in real estate. And so she talked about flips, but then we started talking about buying a second home in Florida because she's always in Florida. And so what she really liked about it is that if you buy a second home, you don't have to put as much down as an investment property. Sometimes the terms can be more friendly, so it's an easier loan to get. But then at the same time, you can short-term rental it, like Aaron was talking about, as long as you're able to stay in that property for at least 2 weeks out of the year, preferably, maybe a month. You can do that on a second home mortgage versus your straight up investment property. So that was a conversation we had, and she really liked the idea of doing that because then she could do more of her decorative spin and be like an active manager and do it, how she wants to do it. And she's got the money to do it now.
Got it. All right. Well, the last one, commercial. So I think if your clients, let's say they own a business and they talk to you about wanting to, they've been leasing their office somewhere for a long time and they want to buy and put their business in it. I think commercial financing is financed differently than residential. It's under bank commercial terms. Loan to values, down payments, terms are always different. And I would say that commercial or mixed use type properties, there's some people that literally, are multimillionaires. You'd never know it. They drive a white pickup truck and they own 10 commercial warehouses or more. So the commercial property business is a unique situation that your client's going to come to you, I think, more times than not to house their business. And I would say that as a resource for you guys, commercial financing, you always want to have a good mortgage person who might know a good commercial person to recommend to your client, because in the end, commercial is its own little beast. And it all depends on what type of business, what type of structure, where it is. And I've seen situations where people get really aggressive commercial loans with almost nothing into the property, and they get like a small business administration loan to repair the property to put their business in. So this stuff, if I could rewind and give myself advice at 25 years old when I moved to Nashville, I was a little older. I was 29 or 30, but no, I was 29. I would have tried to buy a commercial property to house my mortgage office much sooner. That would be so if you are an advisor and you have self-employed clients that don't own their own commercial space, this is going to be maybe a question that you're going to have to deal with in the future.